Hi, this is Tisch Aitken, and it is Tuesday, December 10th, 2024. This is my weekly astrology forecast, and November was a very intense month. December has a lot going on as well. So on December 6th, Mars officially retrograded, and it retrograded at 6 degrees and 11 minutes of the fixed fire sign of Leo. It won't clear its shadow until the beginning of May, on May 2nd, when it gets back to 6 degrees of Leo. And it's going to retrograde through February 23rd, but it returns to the cardinal water sign of Cancer on January 6th. It will remain in the sign of Cancer through April 18th, but it's retrograde from December 6th through February 23rd, initially in Leo. Then the beginning of January, it goes back into Cancer, where it's more of a challenging position. In Leo, it's got the masculine fire energy, which Mars embodies because it rules the very masculine fire sign of Aries, and it is expressive and passionate and creative in the sign of Leo. This is an invitation for all of us to open up to love, not so much ego. The North Node is transiting in Aries, which is about ego and identity for a little while longer through January 11th. And we have one final eclipse in Aries on March 29th. But the idea is about love, opening your heart. It's about selfless love because we have Saturn and Neptune transiting at the last, well, right now Neptune is at the last degrees of Pisces, but Saturn will get there next May, and on and off it'll be in Pisces, both the planets through February 15th of 2026. And this is about trying to carve a dream, help others that need your help more than maybe you do, tapping into your creativity. But this is where we're completing a year with Mars retrograde. That is tough. Mars is how you get things done. It's okay if people are, maybe they've worked really hard. Some people take the last couple of weeks of the year off to recalibrate, get their place in shape, go on a vacation, do some errands they don't have time to do, etc. But we're beginning a new year with Mars retrograde, and it'll be retrograde for almost 2 full months through February 23rd, and it's in its fall position in Cancer. It does not like being there. So that's tough, but it's a time to reassess in Leo. How can you open your heart more? How can you be more creative? Like the cowardly lion, open your heart to ward off fear, to really be courageous. And your heart is part of that. Love is the opposite of fear. Love is embracing. And, with that, Venus is starting to slow down. Right now, it's 35 degrees ahead of the sun, but Venus is going to retrograde on March 2nd. And Mars will station direct on February 23rd. So that's not very far apart. And the interesting part about March is that Venus retrogrades at approximately 10 degrees of Aries. Let's see, the new moon eclipse in the partial solar eclipse on March 29th is going to be, I believe, at 9 degrees of Aries. And Mercury retrogrades in March as well at 9 degrees of Aries. So a lot of reassessing how we can tap into our ego and identity. And Neptune and Saturn are both, these are outer planets, are going to transit for a while in the sign of Aries. Neptune will be there from March 30th through September 1st. And that is, that's going to be difficult because Neptune is confusing and Aries is about taking action, moving ahead. Saturn will enter Aries from May 24th through September 1st. Neptune will be March 30th through October 22nd. Neptune takes longer to transit, so it's going to be there longer of a period of time. And Uranus also changes signs, but we're focusing on the Pisces story. that is about surrendering. That is about suspension of disbelief. That could be about depression or feeling lost or depressed. Neptune just stationed direct on December 7th at the final degrees of Pisces at 27 degrees and 7 minutes of the mutable water sign of Pisces. We feel the station of an outer planet 5 days before and 5 days after. That can enhance the intuition, very vivid dreams. Could also enhance or make you feel more tired, more drained, more depressed, more lost. And with all of this energy, Mercury is stationing direct next weekend on December 15th, which is the day of the full moon in Gemini, which is ruled by the planet Mercury. It's going to be a wild day because we have the full moon occurring at 4:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time at 23 degrees and 53 minutes of the mutable air sign of Gemini. And that sets off where the lunar eclipse occurred on September 17th. That lunar eclipse was 25 mutable, 25 degrees of the mutable water sign of Pisces. A culmination, an ending, a release. But also, it's going to, in March of next year, we're going to have a lunar eclipse on March 14th, which will be at 23 degrees and 56 minutes of the mutable earth sign of Virgo. So this full moon answers to both of these eclipses. And I know somebody getting married on that day of that eclipse whose birthday is the day before the lunar eclipse in Virgo. So he's getting married on the day of a full moon. The full moon in September set his sun in, it was on his sun in Pisces, and now his birthday is the day before. It's very eventful when you have an eclipse before or after, within about 2 or 3 days tops of your birthday. That means big eventful changes from one birthday to another. But let's get back to where we are now. The Neptune energy, like me, can have you all over the place, but Mars retrograde can also make you feel like things are slowing down. Saturn is direct. It's stationed direct on November 15th. Neptune is now direct, and they're both in Pisces. Neptune rules Pisces, but it can be really foggy and out there, and it is squaring the galactic center, and that's between 26 and 28 degrees of the mutable fire sign of Sagittarius. This can bring more spiritual energy. This can bring definitely more psychic energy, very strong dreams, signs you may be getting, signals. I keep seeing both my boyfriend and my father's birthday on the clock repeatedly. I usually see both those birthdays quite often, but not like this. I'm seeing them all the time. Pay attention to whatever messages, whether it's birds or things you're seeing, whatever it is for you, music that comes on. And, the Neptune station, that'll start to wane. We have on December 12th, Venus opposes Mars. Now remember, Venus entered Aquarius on December 7th, the day that Neptune stationed direct, and it met up with Pluto that day. There could have been power struggles, breakups. There could have been very heavy emotional intensity. And Mars rules Scorpio in ancient astrology. So, and Mars had just retrograded. So that is heavy. We're feeling very strong Mars energy. We already talked about the news stories last week, and a lot of people are saying they feel angry. I think Mars retrograde can have a passive aggressive tone, probably more so when it enters Cancer, because it doesn't like being in Cancer, and Cancer needs to get its needs met. It's very much about security, home, family, and you're going to be taking action based on your emotions. And Cancer is ruled by the moon. Therefore, Mars will be answering back to the moon, which will change signs every 2.5 days. So some days will be easier than others, but it's an opportunity to figure out how to regulate your emotions more, because we're in a very tough time in the world. There are a lot of things, very scary things going on that are outside of our control. You can only control yourself. And so that is a tone right now that's strong with this Mars retrograde energy. We've got Venus opposing Mars on December 12th. Well, that could be creative and sexy energy, but it's the feminine Venus, which is currently in Aquarius, which is an air sign. Venus in Aquarius is very much about friends and networking. It's not as emotionally attached, it's emotionally detached, but it's social. And it's opposing Mars in um, Mars in Aquarius, Mars in Leo, rather. What am I saying? Mars in Leo. And Mars in Leo is very fervent and passionate and, about the heart chakra. And so there could be some challenges with that. We're still in the Mercury retrograde. Maybe you feel devalued by others. It could be a creative or sexy exchange too. It could trigger something in a good way. Maybe a creative project, maybe a romantic date. There could be people hearing from people from the past. That often happens when Mercury retrogrades. And with Mars retrograde, well, that's a personal planet that basically retrogrades once every 2 years. Out of all the planets, it retrogrades the least frequent. And so that can bring old coworkers, maybe men in your life. There was an astrologer that used to say when Mars retrogrades, it's men behaving badly, and when Venus retrogrades, it's the feminine or women behaving badly. So we'll see about that. But I think in general, it's people trying to regulate and manage their temper and anger and pain. Neptune squaring the galactic center could bring a lot of psychic downloads. It's a very spiritual and psychic part of the zodiac. That's the center of the Milky Way. And we, with all of this Pisces energy, we're going to have the North Node of Karma entering Pisces on January 11th, and it'll be transiting in Pisces for a year and a half. That means the North Node is where we're meant to go towards. And in the very beginning of the year, from January 1st through the 10th, it's at the world point. That's a reset point, 0 degrees of the cardinal fire sign of Aries. That's the very first degree of the zodiac. And that is the beginning of the astrological new year for many when the sun enters and ingresses into the sign of Aries. Well, the North Node will be there, and then it retrogrades back to Pisces, the final degree of Pisces, 29 degrees, and this will occur on January 11th. And Neptune and the North Node of Karma are going to meet up at 28 degrees of Pisces on February 7th. And that is, again, about forgetting about self. Mars retrograde in Leo wants you to find your inner light and find your courage and how you shine, how you can be creative. But this is not about seeking attention. This is about opening your heart to love in a very difficult time. How can you bring that light that you shine and help others and come together? Pluto and Aquarius, there are a lot of growing pains. We had Mars opposite Pluto on November 3rd. They will oppose each other a second time the very beginning of the new year on January 3rd. Last time was Cancer and Capricorn right before Pluto changed signs. Now they're going to oppose each other 2 more times at 1 degree of Aquarius and Leo and Aquarius on January 3rd, and a third and final time on April 26th. That is an aspect of war. That is good for detoxing and doing inner work, healing work, but that is a very combative energy. And we know that Mars will still be retrograde, obviously. Mercury will not be retrograde. But we have another thing at play. We've got Saturn sesquiquadrate Pluto, and that is on December 12th. That's a readjustment energy. Pluto's now in Aquarius, and this is about about a new society, about higher frequencies, tapping into genius in a way we never have before, going beyond the infinite. And there are infinite possibilities coming together in a very fragmented world and society. But there will be a lot of anger and revolt involved in that. And Aquarius is, among other things, a sign of rebellion. And so Saturn sesquiquadrate Pluto, that occurred on August 7th. That occurs again on December 12th, and third and final time on April 17th. Not easy energy. Saturn in Pisces is trying to anchor and build a dream that may seem impossible. Pluto in Aquarius is like a digital revolution on steroids, and again, the updates, the upgrades, elevating the frequencies, but it's intense, and Mars has been opposing Pluto, so that is hard too. Then we have Saturn squaring Jupiter. The first time was the first day of the Democratic convention. We're not getting political. I'm just referencing when it occurred. It happened on August 19th. That's also the day I lost Swami, and that I've talked about a lot. It was a full moon that day. It was a full moon in Aquarius, and it was the first of 3 Saturn Jupiter squares. Saturn is expansion. No, pardon me. Jupiter squares Saturn. You use this inner planet first. Jupiter is expansion. Saturn is contraction. We're trying to streamline something that we're trying to expand, but we don't want to be blowing up all over either. We want to have it work and not get ahead of ourselves. Jupiter can inflate too much. We have a second exact hit of the two on Christmas Eve on December 24th. And that the first was at 17 degrees of Gemini and Sagittarius. The second is at 14 degrees of Gemini and Sagittarius, and they will spar and square each other the third time, third and final time on June 15th of 2025. And this time they will be at 1 degree of Aries and Cancer. They'll be in cardinal signs. Right now they're immutable signs, and they'll be close to the world point because 0 degrees of the cardinal signs, and Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. At that point in June, Saturn will be at 1 degree of the cardinal fire sign of Aries, squaring Jupiter in at 1 degree of Cancer. And so we'll see. That'll be a big one. But right now, so much happening, feeling all over the place, recalibrating. This is not a great time for launching something new altogether. I know a lot of us, people might be looking for new jobs. If you have your own business like I do, obviously you're going to be launching things, you're going to be planning things. But if it's things you've already done, that's much better. This is not a big launch period. Yes, Saturn and Neptune are direct, but we've got Mars retrograde. We've got Venus slowing down, and Venus and Mercury will retrograde in March. Mercury retrogrades 4 times a year, but Venus only retrogrades once every year and a half. That's another big deal right after, like within about 8 days or so of Mars stationing direct, which is for several months. Mars won't clear its shadow until May 2nd, which is where Mars retrograded on December 6th. So it shows you how slowly they're moving. The North Node in Pisces is saying to have patience. Beginning a new year with Mars retrograde and not leaving Cancer and Leo until June, the middle of June, that's a slowdown. And we have Jupiter retrograde till the beginning of February. We have Neptune's now direct. We've got Uranus retrograde. We have Pluto's now direct, but there's a very slow, held back tone, and so, but this is saying that this is not a year. I remember, I think it was 2018, I believe it was, maybe it was 2019, when all the planets were direct. We began a new year. Saturn was in its rulership, and it was like people were on fire. They were ready to begin the year. I had a lot of clients. I go to LA every year in January to see new clients. People were just so focused on their goals. Well, Saturn was in its dignity, and it was very Capricorn energy. But now there is a lost energy. Neptune has been traveling at the last degrees of Pisces. So aside from Mars retrograde, which is very difficult to move ahead, you have Neptune, it got to the fixed star Shiat, which is 29 degrees of Pisces, 28, 29 degrees of Pisces from May 4th through September 4th. That deals with homelessness. That deals with self-undoing. That deals with addiction. That is wrapping up all the signs that preceded, and it does feel very lost. This is about taking nature walks. This is about tapping into creativity and dreams. And that full moon and I will talk more about it, but the full moon on Sunday occurs at 4:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time at 23 degrees and 53 minutes of the mutable air sign of Gemini. Again, it defaults back to the lunar eclipse in Pisces on September 17th. There will be a full moon eclipse on March 14th at 23 degrees and 56 minutes of Virgo. That's setting that off too. So things you're starting or releasing now, maybe there's more of a story to that. But it also is forming a T-square to Neptune in Pisces, which just went direct, just stationed direct last Saturday, this past Saturday. And so you've got the ruler of Pisces squaring this full moon. Well, that can be confusing, hazy. Mercury does station direct, but not till 3:56 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at 6 degrees and 24 minutes of the mutable fire sign of Sagittarius. Mercury in Sag likes to be direct, and it is making a good angle to Mars in Leo, so that's positive. But we've got the full moon squaring Neptune. The best laid plans of mice and men, we shall see. But it is Sagittarius season still, which is very buoyant and happy and optimistic. You have Venus forming a good aspect to Jupiter. It's making a trine that could be overly indulgent, given that the full moon is square Neptune. And it could be some confusion, could be feeling excited too and having fun, very creative energy. So that is good. Venus and Jupiter in harmony are good. But remember, Venus met up with Pluto on the 7th. That wasn't so easy. Even though in Aquarius it's detached, it's still a very emotionally intense energy, a combative energy and aspect of endings. Venus is still near Pluto. They're no longer conjunct in the full moon chart, but Venus is opposite Mars and Mars is also opposite Pluto. So, combative energy. Definitely we're dealing with Mars Pluto because they're hitting again on January 3rd, but it could be creative and sexy energy. Let's go for that. Duffy, don't screw it up. Good luck, everybody. Have a very good wedding, Duffy. And DJ Ben will be your DJ, and we know he won't screw that up. So thank you and take care.